I'm Nick Reese, and this is Jeff Martin, and we're here at Mosaic 51. Is it officially the company name, or what's the...
Mosaic51.com is the website, and the
Okay.
company's Mosaic.
Perfect. So basically, I was here, and we were having some beers. I'm a software guy. Jeff is a hardcore photography hardware guy. We're sitting here with his camera, the Mosaic 51, in their workshop where they build basically mobile mapping cameras. If you've seen the Google Maps cars, he builds the cameras that do that. And we were talking a little bit about his experience building hardware over the years, and it's always funny because when you talk to hardware guys as a software guy, they think what you do is easy, and you think what they do is easy, and then when you kind of trade notes and you learn, it's all way deeper and more interesting than it seems. And so we were going through like a list of like what are your big lessons and all that stuff over beers last night, and I was like, wait. We should probably like get this on video because I watched and read most of the stuff about the company, and we've chatted a few times with a lot of cool things came up. And so essentially we have a story, I believe, here that is kind of like he had a prior company, which we'll go into, and there's some lessons learned from that. And, he kept trying, he kept building, and finally he built something that works. Company's profitable, sustainable, and that's a big feat to go from hardware all the way to paying clients like me. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not paid to do this by any means. I bought a camera, and it's really an impressive piece of hardware, and so I figured it's worth having a chat. And I'm a marketing guy too, so I figured we might as well chat. So, Jeff, thanks for being here with me. Mm-hmm. Your first company was SphereCam, and you've been a photographer more than that. We'll talk about this, but let's start all the way at the beginning.
Okay, so yeah, I discovered photography at a very, very young age. I've always been into photography. My dad was into photography. My mother's dad was into photography, so definitely runs in the family. I immediately, when I discovered 360-degree photography in around 2002, when I got my first digital camera, it kind of struck me like a bolt of lightning that this is something important. And this is something that I have to be doing and exploring to its logical end. So that's what I did. So I started building a website combining maps and 360 photos in around 2004, 2005. That grew into 360cities.net, which is still around. And I started tinkering with hardware in around 2008, 2009. And I don't have a background in electrical engineering or anything else. This was purely growing out of my fascination with the medium of 360-degree imaging. And it's not, that hard to, extend the idea of 360 photography to 360 video. At that time, the 360 video was, barely existed. There were a couple products on the market to do it, but they were very, very expensive. And I thought, well, how hard could it be?
So how hard was it?
It's pretty damn hard.
Yeah.
But
the company resulted in this.
Yeah. So this is SphereCam. This was my second company, first hardware company. And I founded this with one FPGA engineer, hardware engineer.
Okay, break it down for the non-hardware people.
Okay, so FPGA is a programmable chip. So you can on the like chip level, like in the chip, there's a bunch of switches and gates. Okay. And on a normal chip, these are kind of permanent. Okay. And you can make 1 million of these chips, and they're really small. So in FPGA, the gates, you can change them. So you can basically design a custom chip as if it is a piece of custom silicon.
Awesome.
So the chip is a bit larger and uses a bit more power, but you can have like incredible speeds of stuff because it is doing like stuff on the native chip level, awesome. Not in software.
It also sounds like iterations faster when you do that. Is that true?
Yeah. Especially if you have FPGA engineers who know what they're doing. If you don't, then of course it's a world of pain. And these are fairly exotic things to program. It's kind of a weird combination of electrical engineering and coding, because you're writing a program that results in physically altering this chip.
Interesting.
So there are all kinds of weird considerations you have to take into account that you don't have to with pure software engineering.
Okay.
And we came up with this, which we called SphereCam. This is 6 image sensors, 6 lenses, a couple of FPGAs, batteries. There's 6 micro SD cards in here. There's Wi-Fi. There's a GPS chip. There's entirely too many things in such a small size for a bunch of inexperienced people to build, which is sort of what ended up happening. We bit off way more than we could chew. We were way too ambitious with some of the specifications, especially around the size of the device.
Cool.
And there were a lot of kind of basic mistakes that were made at the beginning of the design process, which we tried to overcome, but couldn't. And a lot of them were from just the size of it. And it is a magical small object. And believe me, I put this into many people's hands, and the reaction was always one of amazement. But if it doesn't actually work very well, then, well, it's not going to be amazing for very long.
So you launched this on a Kickstarter, and then I know there's a bit more to the story, and I stopped you there. What happened after Kickstarter? On this.
So we did this Kickstarter campaign, and this was in 2015. This was, if you remember, the VR hype around 2015, 2016. Facebook had bought Oculus a couple of years before that, and there were a lot of 360-degree cameras coming out, a lot of different kind of corporate marketing campaigns and stuff like that wanted VR video, and there were VR headsets coming out left and right. Samsung was in the game, and there was a ton of hype around VR. So we launched it at the right time, and we raised $500,000 on Kickstarter. We had delivery dates that were outrageously unrealistic, as it turned out, which is very normal for hardware Kickstarter campaigns, because they're usually done by people who aren't completely, fully aware of all of the problems. A lot of unknown unknowns. Yeah. Which is what we had. So we had a delivery date of like 6 months after the Kickstarter campaign, and we blew right past that without shipping anything. We did have a working device, but getting from a prototype device to something that you can ship is it's a whole can of worms. It's one thing to build a prototype, even a reliable prototype, and a completely other thing to build 100 or 1,000 of them.
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions I always have when I look at hardware is, how much does the first one cost? How much does the second one cost? How much does the 50th cost? And how much does the 1,000th cost? I'm sure there's, intuitively, I assume that there's some sort of breakdown there. Right. But does it scale? Like, how do things scale with hardware? Tell me about this journey from going from prototype to...
Right. So, I mean, there's always a ton of, R&D and development that goes into making the first prototype. So, you start with a sketch, diagram, block diagram, your specifications, and you have to decide, what chipset are you going to use, what image sensors, what lenses, how is it powered, what kind of firmware is it going to have, what kind of operating system is it going to have. So, there's the human cost, there's the monetary cost, and there's the kind of emotional cost. So the first one, tears. First one costs everything from everybody. And I mean, obviously the development cost is amortized over a large quantity, or at least that's the idea. Right. And the first ones kind of need to cost a lot more money in order to help cover the cost of development, which, even if you're a scrappy garage startup, there's a lot of engineering to do, a lot of design to do. The CNC machining of the housing, like these are also expensive. And, getting a one-off of anything is expensive. So a one-off of the housing, of the PCBs, of the electronics, it costs quite a lot more than when you're doing serial production of many units.
Can you enlighten me on the difference between global shutter and the other ones? Is it
A rolling shutter? Hmm. Yeah. So a rolling shutter sensor is sort of, it sort of scans line by line and it exposes the image line by line.
Okay.
And a global shutter exposes all the pixels at exactly the same moment.
So that's like when you see those videos of like a propeller,
Yeah.
or a helicopter, and it's like
Yes.
it's not moving. That's due to rolling shutter, right?
Right. Or if it's like the propeller blades have a really weird shape, that's
Okay.
because of the rolling shutter.
Okay. And so these had the global shutter, so that you didn't have the anomalies when they were stitched together.
Right. However, global shutter sensors are more expensive, and in general, they're higher noise and lower dynamic range. And these particular image sensors were intended for more industrial applications like factory inspection and things like that, where having a good colors or a good dynamic range is not the highest priority compared to like the kind of image sensor you'd have in a consumer camera, where obviously it is. So there were a few kind of caveats to using the global shutter sensor, which we had to overcome, like the amount of noise, which had to be addressed, which we ended up making a few mistakes on, and other things like that. Generally, all kind of photographic cameras have rolling shutter sensors because they have better performance in terms of the image quality. And all cell phones have rolling shutter sensors. So in terms of the just basic
Scale.
economics and scale, there's been a lot more just R&D and investment that has gone into the development of those, which has made them cheaper and better in most respects. But when you're joining different images together from different image sensors, if the image has been captured at different times on the different image sensors, then you can't really join the images together properly at all. So we wanted to address that, and in that respect, the result was impressive. Like the lenses are extremely close together, and all the pixels are captured at once, and that resulted in a pretty seamless image. But there were too many other issues and mistakes that were made in this product that it did not result in us being able to ship it in meaningful quantities.
So you didn't hit that scale,
No, we didn't.
and
we refunded everyone's Kickstarter money, at least, which not everyone does.
so big lessons seem to be size as a limiting factor to kill a project. Heat. I think you mentioned there was a problem with heat distribution.
Yeah.
What were some other things? What were the big lessons?